Part 70. Successfully apologized with true fragrance and let go of Shu Tianzi's grievances. After he brought Xiao Anzi back to the Jinyang Palace, he quickly asked Xiao Doubting to go to his room to get alcohol, while he carried Xiao Anzi to the side hall. After putting Xiao Anzi down facing the bed, several eunuchs behind him quickly gathered around to help Xiao Anzi stop the bleeding and clean up the wound. "Master, here's the alcohol." Xiao Doubting ran in with a small bottle. Although he has long known about alcohol, he has never seen Yi Yang use it, so he doesn't know what the alcohol is for. All poured on Xiao Anzi's wound, disinfected first, and then applied medicine. Yi Yang knew that these eunuchs were not qualified to hire a doctor, so he brought them back to Jinyang Palace and rescued them himself. This kind of trauma, as long as the wound is not infected, is generally not a big problem. The best way to inhibit wound infection is naturally to use alcohol to disinfect. And alcohol, he was bored before. The alcohol distilled from the wine, the purity of the alcohol can be compared with the alcohol of his era. Xiao Doubting didn't know what alcohol was used for, nor what disinfection meant. But as long as Yi Yang said, he blindly believed it. He opened the cork and poured all the alcohol in the bottle onto Xiao Anzi's bloody ass. The comatose Xiao Anzi was awakened by the severe pain and screamed shrilly. He wanted to cover his buttocks with his hands, but his hands were held down by two eunuchs with quick eyes and quick hands. He had to struggle constantly on the bed, and finally, because of the pain, he rolled his eyes and passed out again. "Okay. Now it's time to apply medicine." Yi Yang couldn't bear to watch, and hurriedly asked Xiao Doubting and the others to apply medicine to Xiao Anzi. Xiao Doubting hurriedly took a box of ointment for bruises and smeared it on Xiao Anzi's buttocks. Yi Yang was still worried. He put his ear beside Xiao Doubting's ear, and whispered, "Wait, in my name. Go to the Taiyuan hospital to get some medicines to reduce swelling, and then decoct the medicine in our hall." Xiao Doubting felt warm in his heart. He didn't expect his master to be so kind. For the sake of a servant, he would go to the imperial doctor's office to get medicine in his own name. He nodded and left Xiao Anzi to the new eunuchs to take care of him. Out of the room, ran towards the Taiyuan hospital. Yi Yang left two eunuchs to take care of Xiao Anzi. He walked out of the room and saw that Lu Xuanzhou was still in the yard. He was a little surprised. "Why are you still here?" "Got goosebumps." "Don't look at me like this, I'm flustered." Yi Yang got goosebumps all over. For Yi Yang's cold joke, Lu Xuanzhou couldn't get it. He said with admiration, "It's still brother concubine Yi who dares to take Xiao Anzi away in front of concubine Tianzi. No one dares to have the courage of brother concubine Yi." If Yi Yang was also the emperor's concubine, he might be infatuated with Yi Yang. When he mentioned this matter, Yi Yang was instantly cowardly. He lowered his head and replied gloomily, "Don't mention it. I'm so sick of it now." He really didn't want to offend concubine Tianzi. After all, concubine Tianzi was the cousin of the imperial concubine. Offending concubine Tianzi is equal to offending Shui Chen. He didn't want to cause Shui Chen's hatred because of his relationship with concubine Tianzi. Moreover, in order to help him, Shui Chen actually wanted to take all the charges. Before he had time to repay this kind of great kindness, he ran to offend Shui Chen's cousin. This is an ungrateful villain. Ah, life. Why do you have to arrange so many ups and downs for me to go? Do you dare to change the road to let me go? Brother concubine Yi, don't worry, concubine Tianzi is soft-hearted. As long as you take the softness, she should not trouble you. Lu Xuanzhou comforted. "Soft? Do you want me to take the blame?" Thinking of this method, he jumped in his heart, ready to plead guilty tomorrow. After sending Lu Xuanzhou away, Yi Yang just wanted to go back to his room to rest, but when he saw Junyi walking in, he almost collapsed. Can you let him rest for a while? What? You've done something wrong and still show your face? Junyi asked when he saw Yi Yang's lazy expression. How dare I? Yi Yang whispered, but unfortunately, although the voice was small, it all fell into Junyi's ears without a word. If you don't dare, you won't dare to go to Fuzi Palace to grab someone. Yi Yang is really getting bolder and bolder to go to Fuzi Palace to grab someone. I had no choice but to do. Yi Yang felt sorry for himself. In that case, it's impossible for him to watch the people who helped him get beaten to death, right? You can definitely ask this emperor to come forward, instead of running to Fuzi Palace to grab people. Junyi was really pissed off by Yi Yang, and he could choose to solve this matter in a low-key way, but he wanted to grab people in a high-profile manner. Who in the palace doesn't talk about Yi Yang's favor and coquettishness behind his back, and doesn't put anyone in the eye? Although he knew that Yi Yang was not such a person, he didn't want anyone to smear Yi Yang behind his back. I thought about it, but when I call you, the emperor, Xiao Anzi may be beaten to death. When he went, Xiao Anzi's life was hanging by a thread. If he wasted time looking for the emperor, maybe Xiao Anzi was born. Although Junyi was angry, he didn't say anything. In the afternoon, he asked eunuch Yun to bring his oral edict to Fuzi Palace. Concubine Tianzi listened to eunuch Yun's words. Although she was upset, she didn't show it. After all, the emperor asked her to give Xiao Anzi to Yi Yang. What else could she say? Looking at the reward in front of her, she was annoyed and picked up an ingot of gold, threw it to the eunuch beside her, and said, Shu Qi, go to the imperial kitchen to see what's delicious. Shu Qi is well aware of his master's temperament, and his master likes to eat when she is not happy. So he took the gold and hurriedly walked towards the imperial kitchen. The next day, Shu Tianzi was having lunch when he heard Shu Qi's report, Master. Young Master Concubine Yi is out to see you. Shu Tianzi almost choked on the food in her mouth, and said sullenly, Is Yi Yang sick? Don't care anymore. He's still disgusting me? She swallowed the food in her mouth and said impatiently, Send him away, I don't want to see him. Shu Qi was a little embarrassed, Master. Concubine Yi said that he has come to bear his behavior to plead guilty. His behavior to plead guilty? What is it? Shu Tianzi looked puzzled. Shu Qi shook his head. I don't know what the slaves are. Shu Tianzi, who was curious about what the guilt was, put down the tableware, stood up and walked towards the door. Master, didn't you just say that you were missing? Shu Qi complained silently, but did not dare to remind her, so he quickly followed Shu Tianzi's footsteps. Shu Tianzi came to the front door, looked at Yi Yang who was carrying thorns, raised her eyebrows and asked, Brother Concubine Yi, is this a servant of my family again? Stealing people. Concubine Tianzi, I was the one who was sorry for you yesterday, but today I came here with a thorn to apologize. Yi Yang untied the thorn behind his back and offered it with both hands. If Concubine Tianzi has any resentment, please hit me with this thorn. Well, I will never dare to have any complaints. Shu Tianzi looked at the vitex in Yi Yang's hand, and an idea came to her mind, is Yi Yang crazy? To actually let her beat him, isn't this courting death? If the emperor finds out, will she still live? She secretly scolded Yi Yang for being really bad, and she dared to frame herself like this. If Yi Yang knew what Shu Tianzi was thinking, he would definitely shout that he was wrong. He really just wanted to apologize. Haha. Shu Tianzi sneered angrily. Brother Concubine Yi, I have no grievances with you. Why did you frame me like this? At the end, Shu Tianzi gritted her teeth. When did I frame you? He just apologized sincerely. Bah! Shu Tianzi couldn't see Yi Yang's innocent face, and with a bah, she turned around angrily and entered the Fuzi palace, leaving Yi Yang standing there with a confused expression. Shui Chen learned that Yi Yang was guilty of his behavior, and secretly scolded Yi Yang for really looking for trouble. He was afraid that the conflict between the two would get worse, so he hurried to Fuzi Palace. When he arrived at the Fuzi Palace, he happened to see Yi Yang standing at the door of the hall with a bewildered face. He hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Brother concubine Yi, what are you doing?" Yi Yang felt wronged when he saw Shui Chen. "It came to my mind, imperial concubine, you must decide for me. I really just want to apologize to concubine Tianzi. Who knows, I've been misunderstood." Shui Chen looked down. Looking at the thorn in Yi Yang's hand was unclear, so he asked, "Apologize with a weapon? Aren't you afraid that the two would fight over this? You don't know anything about the imperial concubine. I'm asking for the guilt." Seeing Shui Chen's stunned expression, Yi Yang quickly explained, "This guilt is because I came to the door with the thorns on my back and asked the concubine Tianzi to whip me and beat me until she relieves her anger." Shui Chen was stunned. What kind of strange excuse is this? He rubbed his aching forehead and said with a look of hopelessness, "Brother concubine Yi, if you really want to apologize, just send some more delicious food to concubine Tianzi. She has been greedy since she was a child. There is nothing wrong with her things that can't be solved by eating." Yi Yang was stunned. He didn't expect that the serious concubine Tianzi was actually a foodie. He likes to eat, it's not too simple. Yi Yang was excited. And after saying goodbye to Shui Chen in a hurry, he returned to Jinyang Palace with Xiao Doubting. As soon as he returned to the Jinyang Palace, Yi Yang asked Xiao Doubting to prepare various ingredients, while he rolled up his sleeves and began to show off his skills. Because of the lack of chili peppers, Yi Yang gave up his Sichuan cooking skills and opted for pasta food. The first thing he did was to make dumplings, because he had learned how to make dumplings from his mother before. So the superb skills of making dumplings would not be difficult for him. When he steamed a big cage of dumplings in full swing, he ate the dough of dumplings. Yi Yang almost vomited. Are there any more nasty dumplings than this? Not believing in evil, he picked up another dumpling and put it in his mouth, and then he cried, there were really more nasty dumplings than before. "Young master, is it so delicious?" Xiao Doubting saw that the dumplings were so delicious that Yi Yang was in tears, and his heart was itching. He really wanted to taste the dumplings. Seeing Xiao Doubting's look of anticipation, Yi Yang said, "Try it. We will continue to improve it later." "Thank young master." Xiao Doubting happily picked up his chopsticks and put a steamed dumpling into his mouth. Eating the novel dumplings, Xiao Doubting's eyes lit up. "Oh my god, these dumplings are too delicious." Yi Yang suspected that he had heard it wrong. "Young master, these dumplings are really delicious. This is the first time I have eaten something so delicious." Xiao Doubting danced with excitement. "Bite it down, it's full of meat, it's really delicious." Sure enough, it's not a good thing to keep your mouth open. He obviously thinks it's hard to eat, but Xiao Doubting thinks it's delicious. When he saw the other eunuchs all looking at him expectantly, he smiled and said, "Eat what you want, I'm doing research to see how to make the dough softer." They can eat it too. A few eunuchs hesitated and dared not eat dumplings with chopsticks. Seeing this, Xiao Doubting said vaguely, still with dumplings in his mouth, "You can eat it if you want to eat it. If you don't eat it, you will be angry." After hearing this, the eunuchs were very welcome. Pick up chopsticks around the pot, pick up the dumplings in the pot and eat. When they ate the meat-filled dumplings, they couldn't help but burst into tears. It was the first time they had eaten such a delicious meal when they grew up. It's really delicious. It's all meat in one bite. One eunuch was so excited that he shed tears for the first time he had eaten so much meat. Several other eunuchs nodded repeatedly, agreeing with his words. And Yi Yang, who has been studying how to make flour, finally put a little wine and covered the dough with gauze. After letting it sit overnight, he found that the dough was much softer. And his confidence increased. This time the dumpling skin was obviously much softer than yesterday's. After eating dumplings that tasted good, Yi Yang quickly asked Xiao Doubting to send a dumpling to Fuzi Palace. Concubine Tianzi looked at the dumplings brought by Xiao Doubting. Although she was very curious about the taste of these odd-shaped dumplings, but she was angry and determined not to eat this food, raised her chin and replied proudly. It looks cheap at first glance. This concubine doesn't eat this thing that can't be on the table, you should take it back. Listening to concubine Tianzi's harsh belittling, Xiao Doubting really felt wronged for his young master. In order to make these dumplings, his young master has been busy from yesterday to the present, without credit or hard work. But concubine Tianzi does not appreciate it. But thinking of Yi Yang's request, he swallowed the grievances in his heart and said kindly, Concubine Tianzi, this is my young master's wish. Please accept it. He put the tray on the table beside him. He bent over and said, the servant will not disturb concubine Tianzi anymore, the servant will retire. When Xiao Doubting was far away, Shu Tianzi kicked on the stool next to her angrily. This Yi Yang is a disgusting person. I don't want to pay attention to him, he also came to trouble me. Glancing at the dumplings on the table, she hummed, I don't eat Yi Yang's things even if I throw them away. She looked at the eunuchs beside her and said, this thing I don't eat anyway. You guys, eat it if you want. Shu Tianzi didn't want to eat it, so he quickly picked up the dumplings on the table and walked out. Since the master doesn't eat it, they certainly won't eat it either. So, they sent the dumplings to the side hall for the two new eunuchs to eat. These two eunuchs were sent by Yi Yang because Yi Yang robbed Xiao Anzi, and the emperor was deeply sorry. The two eunuchs thought it was poisonous, so they wanted to test the poison. They cried and ate it. After eating, they didn't forget to praise, it's so delicious. Just as the two of them were waiting to die, the next day Yi Yang brought another bowl of noodles. And Shu Qi gave the noodles to the two new eunuchs. The two eunuchs thought that they were all poisoned anyway, so what's the harm in being poisoned once? So they finished the big bowl of noodles with happy tears. Because the noodles were smooth and beef was in it, the two of them, who had never eaten something so delicious, completely cleaned the bowl. Shu Qi looked at the intoxicated expressions on the two of them, and wondered if it was so delicious. On the third day, Yi Yang brought the buns again. And they still fell into the stomachs of the two eunuchs, which made the two eunuchs mistakenly think that they had entered the fairyland. Otherwise, why would there be such delicious food? On the fourth day, Yi Yang asked Xiao Doubting to bring milk tea again. After smelling the milk tea, Shu Tianzi, who had been stubborn, couldn't hold back and took a sip. When she tasted the food she had never eaten before, she felt that all her troubles had vanished. At this moment, she didn't care if the food was sent by the person she hated the most, and took another gulp. Shu Qi was stunned by the sight. What if she didn't eat it after throwing it away? Why is it so unprincipled? But smelling the fragrant milk tea, he really wanted to take a sip. On the fifth day, Yi Yang sent a bottle of perfume and completely bought Shu Tianzi. Shu Tianzi took the perfume bottle and put it under the tip of her nose to smell it again and again. The rich floral fragrance fills the nostrils, which makes people feel drowning. The most important thing is that such a strong fragrance will not get tired of smelling it for a long time, but will be very greedy for the smell of this perfume. She hurriedly put 2 drops on her wrist and neck as Yi Yang said, and then ran out to show it off. Along the way, everyone smelled the faint good smell, and all cast doubtful eyes on Shu Tianzi. They couldn't understand why Shu Tianzi's body smelled so good, and the faint scent lingered on her, making them want to get closer and smell it for a while. Although Shu Tianzi is usually not showy, she also has a heart to show off. Along the way, she raised her arrogant head and gained a 100% return rate, which completely satisfied the vanity she tried to ignore. She was in a good mood and decided to let go of her personal grievances with Yi Yang.